The Comedian is a new comedy movie about an upstanding man trying to fight against the industry and make a name for himself. It's full of wacky hijinks and relatable moments that will be fun for the whole family, so as such, we'll be dissecting this film and going over the plots. Also, this movie fits in with the holiday season, so it's another bonus for this video coming out around this time of the year. Anyway, the story begins in Metropolis as a man starts spinning a sign to get people to go to some lame-ass store. Then a couple of suspiciously foreign-looking youths finesse his sign and he has to do the dash and get on their ass to get it back. Eventually, he makes it to where the infidels have hid themselves, and they come out of the woodworks and break the sign over him and then start giving him the beats. So basically, the whole misadventure was an L. After these trials and tribulations, he starts laughing about his suffering in front of some woman, and it turns out he has some condition where he can't control his laughter, making the story like 8 times more painful to watch. So after the woman gives him some medication, he gets on a bus home and tries to be friendly with a young Negro, but then his worthless mom gets in her feelings over her son having positive interactions and tells the main character to piss off. This causes him to laugh and cause a scene, so he has to hand the loser mom a card stating his mental illness. To make matters worse for our hero, he lives with his own delusional mother, who he has to take care of because their dad dipped or something. The mom keeps running her mouth about the bad person's father, saying he's a good man or something, but the main character isn't that much better honestly, cause he's out here fantasizing about some talk show host. Later on, when the main character reports to work at the Goofy agency, one of his comrades gives him a gun in order to prevent the infidels from continuing their nonsense in the future, so you know, it looks like big ups to him, but then his boss tells him that because the sign was broken, he's barely getting paid, cause the money is going towards replacing the sign. So as we can see, our hero has to deal with assholes on all corners of his life. Then he gets in an elevator and gets a hard-on for some single mother, and at first, it looks like another tragedy for him when he starts tweaking on her. But fortunately for him, they're able to hit it off and form a friendship or something, but for some reason, he couldn't just leave it at that, and he starts actually stalking her at her places of business and stuff, like seeing when she picks up her daughter from school. She pulls up on him and asks him if he's been doing the most. Then he admits to his criminal activity, and for some reason, she lets it slide and actually starts hanging out with him, which as we all know is complete nonsense, because in real life, niggas just be asking questions and already we're greeted with hostility, but whatever. So it's his turn to get up. He starts telling a bunch of off-brand jokes he stole from Reddit, but he can't even get them out because he keeps laughing too hard at his own nonsense, like give it a rest dude, but his wife is there to support him, so it gives him the strength to continue on and tell some of the jokes completely. After that painful scene, the main character performs for a bunch of fetuses, but then while he's milli rocking, his heat falls out of his pocket and he stumbles over to retrieve it. After this jihad, the main character gets fired by his asshole boss, and the guy that gave him the strap in the first place basically did him dirty and denied everything, so the main character had to take the train back home with nothing to show for it. While he's on, a bunch of young stockbrokers start getting on a woman's ass like they're in the mafia or something, but the main character keeps laughing, which gives the woman time to escape. Since their victim has done the dash, the men turn their attention to the main character, and when he tries to explain to them that he has a mental condition that causes this, they just give him the beats, much like the infidels from the beginning of the movie. But this time, the main character draws his strap and starts busting at the ops and putting them in the dirt too. When one of them tries to make a run for it, he hunts them down and puts them on his shirts. Then after proving his alpha male status, he goes to his wife's apartment and starts making out with her, so that's cool. When he gets back home, he sees that some people are happy he took a bunch of limbs out of circulation, but for some reason, Bad Person's dad is moaning about his employees becoming packs. Then the main character shows up at work to get the rest of his things, and the guy that sold him out continues to act like a hoe, so the main character damages company property and pisses off. While he's walking with his wife, they see a bunch of protesters dressed up like clowns, and the wife expresses admiration for a murderer, so the main character is feeling himself. But then when he gets home, he sees a letter about Bad Person's father, so he confronts his mom like what the fuck. Then she tells him that his father is also Bad Person's father, so our hero pulls up on his father's mansion and meets the kid version of Bad Person. He tries to get him to smile, and honestly Bad Person has no reason to, cause you know he's just some kid looking at a man he's never seen before, and at first it's okay, but then the main character starts tweaking and makes it weird by putting his fingers in his mouth, so Jarvis pulls up to check him for that. Then Jarvis tells the main character that his mother is off one, so our hero tries to put him in the dirt before he realizes that his maybe brother is watching, so he pisses off. Then he starts stalking his maybe father during a play or something and pulls up to him in a bathroom. He tells him that he's his son through his mother, and for a second, the father is looking a little on edge. But then he tells him that his mother is tweaking and that she's not his mother either because he's adopted. All this information makes him start laughing, but Bad Person's father thinks he's trying to joke on him, so he assaults him. Then after that, the main character throws himself in the fridge because he's tired of the nonsense. Eventually 12 shows up at his doorstep and he starts asking too many questions, so he ducks them, but finds out his mom has been taken to the hospital. While there, he watches his talk show Führer acknowledge his existence, so at first, he's feeling lit, but then the host just starts clowning him for laughing too hard, so the main character realizes that all is lost. But it's okay, because it turns out the talk show host wants the main character on his show. Still wants him to find the truth. The main character goes to an asylum and asks for medical records from his mom, but the guy doesn't want to give them up, so he finesses them, and finds out that his mother really did adopt him, then abused him with her boyfriend, so now his whole life is a lie, and understandably, he's in his feelings. Then he pulls up on his mom and turns her into a pack for all the nonsense she's put him through. After that, he goes to his wife's apartment, and she says she doesn't know him, so it turns out he had no wife this whole time because all of their interactions have been fictional, so he pisses off from there. Then while he's getting ready for his talk show appearance, the guy that sold him out and another guy show up. Eventually, the main character realizes the guy that sold him out is planning to sell him out again to the detectives too, so he murks him, then bullies the dwarf, and lets him leave. After putting on his complete clown outfit, the main character starts hitting the folks when Squall pulls up on his ass again over those guys he turned into ghosts earlier. Then he runs away from them over a bunch of different trains filled with people wearing masks, so the good guy wins again. He makes it to the talk show and asks the guy to introduce him as comedian, while he prepares to put himself in a blunt during the performance. So then the main character gets to start the interview and starts telling weirdo jokes, so the other guys have to check him on that, and then he admits to murking those guys in a train, and he and the talk show get to a very heated discussion. He ends up putting the talk show guy in a shirt, so he gets put in a police car that gets crashed by an ambulance driven by his disciples. Meanwhile, Bappers' parents get murked, but oh well. The movie ends with him in an asylum, being asked questions by some woman, then running around after potentially catching a body. Overall, this movie was an instant classic. It's apparently supposed to be a one-off movie with no connection to the other movies in the DC universe, which is good because almost all the other movies they've been coming out with have been ass. It feels a lot more like a general movie about a guy who snaps than a comic book film, which is what they were going for anyway, so that's cool. A lot of people were hoping it would lead to actual violence though, because they're weirdos, but thankfully, none of that happened. But the weirdos were still upset, so they couldn't even give the movie a 70%, despite the fact that most niggas who actually watched the movie declared it to be a great one. With all the success this movie has made, apparently they're down for making a sequel, but now that I think of it, it probably wouldn't feel right unless Batperson is there, and he has his own movie thing coming out in the future. In general, I recommend you all watch this movie to get a look at the inside of your neighbor's mind, and hopefully, more people can realize there's no reason to get in your feelings over well-crafted comedies like this one. Okay guys, make sure that when you subscribe you hit the notification button, because that lets you know whenever I make a new video, and as always, thanks for watching.